Hey everyone, and welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons. Today we're taking your lead guitar soloing to the next level as we map out the intervals found in the pentatonic scale. Now this is extremely useful stuff as it's going to allow you to follow chord progressions, not just your basic blues 1-4-5, but progressions of all kinds. Let's get started. Okay, a close look at the fretboard, and our goal for today is to put names to each of the notes in our pentatonic scale. In order to do this, we need to know what notes are in a different scale, the major scale. Now the major scale sounds like this. And each of those notes in the scale get a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this is a very, very important scale. In fact, it's the most important thing in music because these intervals, naming these notes by number, is used no matter what, in every single musical scenario, even if you're playing another scale. So, as we look at our pentatonic scale, and I look at this first note, we'll call that root, because it's the same note that we have in the root of the A major scale. Okay, so that's root. Now this over here, this next note we have, is called flat 3. Now the reason that is because if we go through our major scale and go whole, whole, and then flat that third note, we have what is called a flat third, which you can also call a minor third. So far our pentatonic scale consists of root, flat third. Moving on, we have this note here. Now even though this is the third note of the pentatonic scale, we're going to call that 4, because again, all intervals, these names are in reference to the major scale, and that's it. So we go to the major scale, and we see that this note that is in common between the two scales is the fourth note of the A major scale. So we're going to call that the 4. So far, mapping out our pentatonic scale, what we have is root, flat third, a C note. And here, 4, a D note. If this is 4, then the next note in the scale is 5. This is because it's the 5th note of the major scale again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, going on to the next string, we have flatted 7. This is the 5th fret of the D string. It's called the flat 7 because, again, if we reference our major scale, find the 7th note and then flat it, we have that note inside of our pentatonic scale. This is a real bluesy note right here. It's a G. All right, now moving forward, we have the octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th note of the scale is the 8th note of the major scale, oc. So octave 8 on the 7th fret of the D string. Then it all just repeats. So pentatonic, there's only 5 notes in this scale. In fact, penta just means 5 notes of a scale. It's not even a complete scale, really. It's just a dumbed down minor scale. And it's minor because we have that minor third in there. Okay, so far our pentatonic scale is root, flat third or minor third, same exact thing. The 4, the 5, the flatted 7, and then here, the root again. Going on to the second octave, we have the flat third again. The 4, the 5, the flatted 7, the root, and then going into another octave, the minor third. All right, now we have our pentatonic scale completely mapped out by interval, which gives us the ability to follow a chord progression. For example, an A 1-4-5 progression. In this key, that would be A. Remember, even chord progressions are in reference to the major scale. So if you want to know what a 1-4-5 is in the key of A, just find the 1st, 4th, and 5th notes of the A major scale. 1, 4, 5. A, B, C sharp, D. So D is our 4 chord. A, B, C sharp, D, E. E is our 5 chord. So, someone's playing for you a bluesy 1-4-5 progression. Now that you have your pentatonic scale mapped out, you can find all the roots, all the ones, right? And then start making licks that attach to that note, the one. So everything I'm playing is ending on that root, which is definitely a very professional thing to do, to follow a chord progression, to play the root note of the chord that you're playing over top of. But then, if the chord progression went to D, I'd want to follow that too. Now D is the fourth in this key, so that means I need to play the notes that are labeled 4. So that would be the G string, 7th fret. Now I'm gonna provide you with a sheet that's gonna help you memorize this. So don't worry, you can go over to the Facebook page and grab that sheet, download it, print it out, and then use it as a resource as you go through the lesson. So the 4 chord came in, a D chord. I follow that note right up to the 7th fret of the G string. Now I'm playing a 4 over top of the 4 chord, and it clicks. It sounds perfect. And then maybe the progression goes back to the 1 if it's a typical blues. And I find a creative, melodic way of getting myself home to the root. Now, on the 5th fret of the B string, we have a note labeled 5. This is what I'm going to play when the 5 chord comes in. In this key, the 5 is E. So when the E major chord plays, I'll play something around that note, maybe like ba 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 da ba ba. Then the 4 chord might come in, if it's a typical blues. Da, do, do, boo, do. Find some 4s to land on, and that's going to sound very, very good. Now, I go back to the root. Using my licks, everything I've stolen from players like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Buddy Guy, B.B. King, to navigate the pentatonic scale. Okay, so that's basically how you would follow a 1-4-5 progression. We have the 1 here on the D string, that's a very important note, very central in the middle of the scale. We have the 4 underneath that. A 4 is always under a root, that's a good thing to memorize. And then we have the 5 here on the B string 5th fret. So 1, 4, 5, and then a root underneath that. So roots are always under 5s. It's pretty convenient. 1, 4, 5. So follow a progression, jam out with the backing track, provide it in the description. Follow the chord progression around. Then the 4 chord turns back to the 1. Maybe the 5 chord comes in. Then back to the 4. And then I'm back to the 1. A major. Alright, and that's basically the mindset of a pretty accomplished soloist. And I always say to people, there's kind of like 3 levels of lead guitar players. There's the player at the kind of like the bottom level. This is someone who's just kind of getting started with it. They're just gunning for the 1 chord the whole way. What sounds good over the 1 sounds good over top of all the chords in the basic blues progression, 1-4-5. So that means the whole time I'm jamming, I can keep going to that 7th fret D string and it's going to sound great, just hitting up the 1. Or here, this one here on the 5th fret of the E string, sound great. Now there's a second level of lead guitar player who might follow the progression note for note. As the chord progression change, he's looking for the root notes of whatever chord he's playing over top of. Over the 1, over the 4, over the 5. And that is definitely a fantastic ingredient to add into your playing. It's something that every player should do. Okay, and then there's this 3rd level of player. These guys and gals are monsters, right? They're seasoned veterans of the fretboard. They'll look at this and say, okay, well, I can hit up the 1 if I want to. And that'll still sound good over my 4 and my 5. And then, when the chord progression changes, I'll follow it, go to the 4, go to the 5. But then they have a special trick. They're gonna look at the chords not only by the root, but consider what's on the inside of the chord. So they'll look at an A major chord and say, okay, this chord consists of A, an E, I have another A note in there, what's that, a C sharp? And then they'll even consider what could have been in the chord, like a G note inside of an A7 chord. and they'll find those notes inside the scale and then use it to harmonize against the chord they're playing with. So they might follow the root of the whole chord progression. They might follow the root down to the 4 chord as it comes in and find the 5. But then maybe when the 1 chord comes back in, this is just an example, instead of playing the root, they'll play the flatted 7. And that will have a totally different effect. Definitely something very, very professional. They'll throw in those notes at the right time to add a little bit more emotion, because it's going to be a very active tone. They might even consider playing the major third, which isn't even inside the pentatonic scale. Something like the 4th fret of the A string. Okay, like Warren Haynes. They can also find that note here on the 6th fret of the G string. Hammering up from the minor third, G string 5th fret, to the 6th fret of the G string. Just like that. It has a very classic kind of B.B. King style feel to it. Okay, so now I hope that I've cleared up a little bit of the mystery of the pentatonic scale. This is, in spite of what a lot of people say, a very versatile scale. There's tons of stuff going on in there, and it creates for a very nice bass camp, right? This is a safe zone that you can start soloing with, and then when you're ready, you can start adding in some of the neighboring tones, like that major third, or even like the 6th. Depending upon if you're playing over a major or minor key, there's tons and tons of options there. But still, I'm gonna go back to my pentatonic scale as a safety zone. Alright everyone, thanks so much for checking out this lesson. I hope that you found it useful and that you're able to put together some solos of your own now. I got plenty more videos coming up, so keep checking back, please subscribe, and please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia saying happy picking.